The sun was warm on my face as we stepped off the plane. I smiled and looked over at Jason, who squeezed my hand and grinned like a kid on Christmas morning. "We made it," he said, laughing. "Our honeymoon in paradise." The airport smelled like salt and flowers. Everything felt like a dream. We had just gotten married 3 days ago, and now we were in Maui. Palm trees swayed in the breeze, and the ocean sparkled in the distance like something out of a movie. I thought, this is it. This is the start of forever. The resort was even more beautiful than the pictures. Our room had a balcony with a view of the beach, white curtains flowing in the wind. There were rose petals on the bed and a bottle of champagne on ice. I laughed as Jason picked me up and carried me over the threshold, nearly tripping on the doorframe. "Careful," I said, giggling. "Oops. First husband fail," he said, setting me down. We spent that first day wrapped in each other. We swam in the pool, drank fruity drinks, and took photos with the sunset behind us. Jason kept calling me his wife, like he couldn't believe it. Every time he said it, I felt my chest fill with joy. "I love you," he said that night, his voice low as we sat under the stars. "I love you more," I whispered back. The next morning, something small felt off. He got a phone call while I was brushing my teeth. I heard him talking in the other room, voice low, too low. When I came out, he hung up quickly. "Who was that?" I asked. Drying my hands, he shrugged. "Just work. I told them I'm not available. But you know how it is." I nodded. Jason ran a tech startup. He always had a million things going on. But still, we were on our honeymoon. Couldn't it wait? That day, he seemed distracted. His smile was a little forced. At dinner, he kept checking his phone under the table. When I asked what was wrong, he said he was just tired from the flight. "Let's just enjoy ourselves," he said, reaching across the table for my hand. I tried to push the worry out of my head. Maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe I was overthinking things like I always did. This was Jason. My husband. He loved me. But that night, when he said he needed to step out for a quick call, something in my gut twisted. I waited 10 minutes, then 20. When 30 minutes passed, I slipped on a sweater and went looking for him. The resort was quiet. The path lights glowed along the walkways. I passed the pool, then the spa, but no sign of Jason. I told myself he probably went to the lobby for better service. But my feet kept moving, and then I saw him. He was standing outside one of the garden suites, not ours. His back was to me. The door opened and a woman stepped out. She was barefoot, wearing one of those hotel robes, laughing about something. Jason leaned in, whispered something to her. She smiled, touched his chest, and then he kissed her. I froze. Everything inside me went cold. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. I couldn't look away. I wanted to scream, to run, to throw something, but I just stood there, watching my husband kiss another woman. On our honeymoon, he didn't even see me. I turned and walked back to our room. My legs felt like they didn't belong to me. When I got inside, I shut the door quietly, like I didn't want to wake someone. Like I was the one doing something wrong. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor. The petals were still there. The champagne bottle was still half full. Everything looked perfect. But inside, I was falling apart. When Jason came back an hour later, I pretended to be asleep. He slipped into bed next to me, wrapped an arm around my waist like nothing happened. His breath smelled like wine and mint. I wanted to shove him away, but I stayed still, silent, cold. My eyes were wide open in the dark. I stared at the ceiling, my chest tight. I kept thinking, why? Why would he do this? We had just promised forever. We had just danced at our wedding, cried during our vows. He looked at me like I was the only person in the world. Was it all fake? Or was this who he really was? The next morning, I smiled. I kissed him like nothing had changed. I laughed when he joked about the pancakes, but inside I was gone. A switch had flipped. I couldn't cry yet. The tears hadn't come. I was just numb. He didn't know I had seen him. Not yet. But I knew something he didn't. This wasn't over. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of the ceiling fan. I was half asleep, curled under the covers, when I heard his phone buzz. Once. Then again. Then a third time. Jason stirred beside me. I opened my eyes just enough to see him grab the phone from the nightstand. He didn't look at me. He didn't check the time. He just slid out of bed like he didn't want to wake me. But I was already awake. I heard the soft creak of the balcony door as he stepped outside. The sound of it closing behind him felt like a wall going up between us. I waited. A minute passed, then 5, then 10. Something didn't feel right. My chest was tight, and my thoughts started spinning. Who was calling him in the middle of the night? We were on our honeymoon. No one should be calling him now, not even for work. I sat up and looked at the clock. 12:47 a.m. I slid out of bed and moved toward the balcony. The curtains were pulled shut, but a small gap let me peek through. Jason was out there facing the ocean, phone pressed to his ear. His voice was low, too low to hear the words, but his body language said everything. He was nervous. He kept rubbing the back of his neck, pacing in small circles. I saw him shake his head once, like he was arguing with whoever was on the other end. Then he said something, paused, and pulled the phone away to check the screen. He didn't know I was watching. I waited until he came back inside. He was quiet, like he was trying not to make a sound. He didn't realize I was sitting on the edge of the bed. "Who was that?" I asked. He jumped a little. "Jesus, you scared me," I didn't laugh. "Who was on the phone?" He looked down at his hands, then back at me. "No one. Just a dumb spam call. Wrong number." "At midnight?" Jason smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Yeah, I guess. Some telemarketer or something. You know how it is." "No, I don't," I said. "Let me see." "What?" "Your phone. Let me see the call." He held it tighter. "Why are you acting like this? We're on our honeymoon, babe. Come on." "Let me see." There was a beat of silence. Then he sighed and handed it over. I opened the recent calls. There was one from a number with no name saved. Just 10 digits. I tapped it. A voicemail. I looked at him. He was watching me, lips tight, shoulders tense. "You don't have to listen to that," he said quickly. "It's probably nothing." I pressed play. The voice was a woman's. Young, soft, but shaky, like she was trying not to cry. "Jason, please don't ignore me. I know you're with her, but you promised you'd call back. You said it was only a matter of time. I'm losing my mind waiting for you." The message ended. I felt like I couldn't breathe. Jason took a step toward me. "It's not what it sounds like." I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I didn't know what else to do. "Really? Because it sounds like you've been lying to me. Who is she?" "She's someone I used to see. Before you." She just hasn't let go yet. I stared at him. Before me. We've been together 3 years. Jason opened his mouth, then closed it again. It wasn't like that. It overlapped a little, okay? But I ended it a long time ago. She thinks you're coming back to her. She's crazy, he said. I've tried to make her leave me alone. I don't even know how she got my number again. You answered her call, I snapped. You stepped outside so I wouldn't hear. His jaw clenched. Because I didn't want to ruin our trip. I didn't want to upset you. Well, you failed, I said, my voice cracking. You lied, right to my face. He walked over and knelt in front of me. I love you. You're my wife. That message means nothing. It meant something to her. Jason was silent. I handed the phone back to him and stood up. My hands were shaking, but I didn't care if he saw. I grabbed my robe and walked to the bathroom, locking the door behind me. I sank to the cold tile floor and tried not to cry, but the tears came anyway. Heavy, angry, confused. I had trusted him. I had married him. And now I was sitting on a bathroom floor, shaking from a single voicemail. Was this what the rest of our life would be like? Secrets behind locked doors? Lies disguised as protection? I wiped my face and stared at myself in the mirror. My skin was pale, my eyes red. I looked like a stranger. Outside the door, Jason knocked gently. Please, babe, can we just talk? I didn't answer. Not yet. Everything had started to crack. And deep down, I knew it was only the beginning. It started with a feeling. Just a small one. The kind you try to ignore. The kind that creeps in when something doesn't add up. Jason said he was going to the lobby to get a drink. He said he couldn't sleep. I told him to bring me back a bottle of water. He smiled, kissed my forehead, and left. That was 25 minutes ago. I waited on the bed, staring at the ceiling, my stomach turning. He didn't take his phone. He always took his phone. But not this time. That's what got me up. That's what made me slip on my sandals and leave our room. I told myself I was being stupid. Maybe he stopped to talk to someone. Maybe he was just walking around to clear his head. But my feet moved fast. I walked past the lobby, then around the pool. No sign of him. Then I saw something. At the edge of the hallway, near the garden suites, I caught a glimpse of someone who looked like him. Jason. His back was to me, and he was holding a keycard. He slid it into the door of one of the rooms. Not ours. I stopped walking. My breath caught in my throat. The door opened. He stepped inside. I don't remember making the decision. I don't remember thinking at all. I just walked. I reached the door, heart pounding. I didn't knock. I didn't wait. I pushed the handle and it opened. The room was dim. The soft yellow light from a bedside lamp lit the space just enough for me to see her. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, wearing one of the hotel's white robes. Long dark hair falling over her shoulder. She looked up, shocked, confused. And then Jason came out of the bathroom, shirtless, a towel over his shoulder. He froze. I froze. No one said anything. For a second, all I could hear was my own heartbeat, so loud I thought it would break my ribs. What is this? I asked, but the words barely came out. Jason stepped forward. Wait, it's not what it looks like. Then what is it? I asked. Because it looks like you're in a hotel room with another woman while your wife is waiting upstairs. The woman stood up, clutching the robe tighter. Jason, you said she didn't come with you. He turned toward her. Be quiet. No, I said. Let her talk. She looked at me, eyes wide and scared. He told me he was ending things with you. He said this trip was just for business. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it felt like the only thing keeping me from screaming. We're on our honeymoon. She stepped back like I had slapped her. Jason reached out. Please, let's talk about this in private. I backed away from him. Don't touch me. I made a mistake, he said. It didn't mean anything. How long? I asked. He didn't answer. I stared at him, my jaw tight. How long? He looked away. A few months. I nodded slowly. My whole body felt numb. You married me while you were sleeping with her? I didn't mean for it to go this far, he said. I didn't know what I wanted. You knew enough to lie, I said. You knew enough to sneak around and hide your phone and sneak into hotel rooms that weren't ours. I still love you, he said. I shook my head. Number, you don't. Not if you could do this. The woman sat down again, her hands shaking. She didn't say anything else. I didn't blame her. I didn't even hate her. She had been lied to too. I turned back to Jason. You broke everything. He stepped closer, but I took a step back. Don't, I said. Stay away from me. He stood there, frozen, and I walked out. The hallway felt cold. My legs were shaking as I moved, but I didn't stop. I went straight to our room, locked the door, and sat on the floor. Everything was quiet, but inside me it was chaos. I thought about the past 3 years, the late nights, the long talks, the way he held my hand at the altar. I thought about the promises he made, the life we were supposed to build. It was all a lie. I pulled my suitcase from the closet and started throwing my things inside. I didn't know where I was going yet. I just knew I couldn't stay here. Not in this room, not with him. He knocked once, then again. I didn't answer. Please, he said from the other side. Don't leave like this. I walked to the balcony and shut the door behind me. The wind was soft. The ocean was still. I let the sound calm me for a second. Then I picked up my phone and booked the first flight home. The music was still playing when I stepped outside. I could hear people laughing and dancing back in the ballroom. My heels clicked on the patio stones as I walked farther from the lights, my dress dragging behind me. I needed air. The wedding had been perfect. Or at least, that's what everyone said. The flowers were fresh, the cake was tall and white, and Jason had cried when he saw me walk down the aisle. People clapped, toasted, cheered. I thought it was the best day of my life, but now my stomach hurt, and I couldn't explain why. I stood by the fountain and took a deep breath. The champagne glass in my hand was still full. Tiny bubbles rose to the top, popping slowly like time had slowed down. I didn't even like champagne. Jason did. I was just holding it for the photo. I heard footsteps behind me. I turned, expecting to see him, but it was Kelsey, my cousin and maid of honor. Her face was pale, and she wasn't smiling. Her eyes looked serious, and she clutched her phone tight in her hand. "What's wrong?" I asked. She looked at me like she didn't want to say it, like it was the last thing in the world she wanted to do. "Kelsey?" I said again, firmer this time. She took a step closer. "You need to see this." "What is it?" I wasn't sure if I should show you, but I can't not. You have to know." She handed me her phone. I looked down. It was a message thread. Dozens of texts, some recent, some older. Photos, Late night I miss you messages. A video, all between Jason and someone named Lexi. I didn't want to press play, but I did. The video was short. Just a few seconds. Jason was shirtless, laughing, holding the camera up as Lexi kissed his cheek. They were in a hotel room. The date said 3 nights ago. 3 nights ago. I stared at the screen, not moving. My hand went cold. My stomach dropped. Everything felt far away, like I was watching someone else's life fall apart. I handed the phone back. Kelsey's voice was soft. I wasn't looking for this. I overheard one of his groomsmen talking, then I checked. I had to be sure before I told you. I couldn't speak. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I nodded, but I still couldn't talk. I felt like I might throw up. I looked down at my dress. My wedding dress. White, perfect, buttons still tight along my back. We had just cut the cake. We had just danced. He had said he'd love me forever. And 3 nights ago, he was with someone else. The music got louder as the doors opened behind us. Jason stepped out, smiling like everything was fine. There you are, he said. I've been looking for... He stopped when he saw my face. Then he saw Kelsey. He looked between us, eyes narrowing. What's going on? I didn't move. Kelsey took a step back. Jason walked over to me, slower now. Babe, what is it? I held up my hand, showing him my champagne glass. You cheated on me before this even went flat, I said, my voice shaking. His eyes widened. What are you talking about? 3 nights ago. Hotel room. Lexi. I stared right at him. Tell me I'm wrong. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. That silence was everything I needed. I turned away. No, he said quickly. Wait. Let me explain, please. It was a mistake. You don't accidentally end up in someone's hotel room, Jason. I panicked. I thought maybe we were rushing things. We were getting married. You didn't panic. You lied. I love you, he said, reaching for my hand. I pulled away. You loved having both of us. Kelsey was still standing there, watching. I could tell she wanted to say something, but she stayed quiet. This was between me and him now. I looked Jason in the eyes. You stood up there and promised me forever. And the whole time, you were lying. He stepped back, like I'd slapped him. It didn't mean anything. I laughed, but it came out harsh. It meant something to me. People started coming outside. A few guests, a couple of bridesmaids. I could hear whispers. Jason looked around. Can we talk about this inside? Please. Not here. I took off my heels, one, and handed them to Kelsey. Then I started walking barefoot across the lawn. Where are you going? He called after me. Anywhere but here. He didn't follow, and I didn't stop. I was still in my wedding dress when I left. The room was dark, but the soft glow from the window let me see just enough. Jason was still asleep, his back to me, breathing slow and steady. I watched him for a second, just to be sure. He didn't move. I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the ring on my finger. It felt heavier now, like it didn't belong. I slid it off slowly. My hands were cold. I held the ring in my palm for a moment, then placed it on the nightstand. No goodbye, no note, nothing. He didn't deserve one. I stood up and grabbed my bag from the corner. I had packed it while he was in the shower earlier. Quietly, quickly. I didn't want him to notice. I didn't want him to ask questions. The zipper had been loud. I remember that. I had frozen in place, scared he would hear it. But he hadn't. Now I walked to the door in silence, every step careful. My shoes were in my hand. I didn't want them clicking on the tile. I looked back once. He was still asleep, like nothing had happened, like he hadn't broken me. I left. The hallway was empty. My heart was pounding in my chest, but I kept moving. I didn't take the elevator. I didn't want to risk seeing anyone. I took the stairs instead, even though my legs felt shaky. When I reached the lobby, it was quiet. Just the front desk clerk, half asleep behind the counter. He barely looked up as I passed. Outside, the air was cool and still. The sky was dark, just starting to lighten at the edges. It was early, too early for taxis to be waiting. I walked down the path to the street. The wheels on my suitcase rattled on the stone. I pulled out my phone and ordered a ride. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely type. I stood on the curb and waited, every second feeling like forever. My mind was racing. What would he do when he woke up? Would he call me? Would he even care? I didn't know. I didn't want to know. All I could think about was the moment I saw him in that hotel room with her. The look on his face when he realized I'd caught him. The way he lied, even then. Like he still thought he could talk his way out of it. And then the silence when he couldn't. That silence had said everything. He didn't love me? Maybe he never had. The car pulled up. A small grey sedan. I got in and gave the driver the address of a hotel across town. Somewhere I could think. Somewhere he wouldn't find me. The driver didn't ask questions. He just nodded and drove. I looked out the window and let the lights blur past. My eyes burned, but I didn't cry. Not yet. I was too numb. We drove past the beach, past the shops that were still closed. This place had been paradise when we got here. It felt like a nightmare now. I reached the new hotel just as the sun started to rise. The sky was pink and gold, beautiful in that quiet early way. It made my chest hurt. I checked in with a fake smile. Told the woman at the desk I was traveling alone. She gave me a key and asked if I needed anything. I shook my head and walked away. When I got to the room, I closed the door and locked it. Then I sank to the floor. Everything hit me at once. The lies, the cheating, the broken promises. I felt like I couldn't breathe. My chest hurt. My hands were still shaking. But I didn't go back. I didn't call him. I didn't send a text. I just sat there for a long time staring at the wall, trying to understand how it all fell apart so fast. How someone who promised forever could ruin everything in a single moment. The sound of the waves outside reminded me we were still on our honeymoon. Only now I was alone. And I realized something. I didn't want to fix it. I didn't want his excuses, his fake apologies, or his empty arms. I didn't want to be the woman who stayed, who forgave too much, who kept pretending everything was okay. I wanted to be done. So I took a deep breath, stood up, and walked to the window. The beach looked peaceful from here, like nothing had changed, but everything had. And maybe that was okay, because I was finally starting to feel something again. Not anger, not heartbreak, freedom. The first week after I left him, I didn't get out of bed. I didn't eat much. I didn't talk to anyone. I just cried. I cried until my eyes hurt, until my chest felt like it was going to break open. I kept thinking about our wedding, our vows, the way he held my face when he said he'd never hurt me, the way he looked at me like I was everything. It was all fake. That hurt more than anything. I'd wake up in the middle of the night and forget for a second. I'd reach across the bed, expecting to find him there. Then I'd remember. He wasn't mine anymore. Maybe he never was. I cried until there were no more tears left. Then one morning, I sat up in bed and something inside me felt different. Not better, just sharper. Like the pain had changed shape. I looked around the hotel room I'd been hiding in and saw my suitcase still open, clothes everywhere. Empty takeout containers. My phone buzzing with unread messages from family, friends, even Jason. I hadn't answered any of them, but that morning I opened one of his texts. It said, "Please, just talk to me. We can work through this." I stared at it for a long time. Then I deleted it, and I knew I wasn't going back. Not to him, not to that life. He broke me. Now I was going to rebuild, and I was going to start with what he loved most, his company. People always thought I was just the pretty wife, just the girl who stood beside him and smiled at meetings, wore nice dresses at tech events, played the supportive partner while he gave speeches. But they didn't know the truth. They didn't know I helped write the first version of the company's pitch deck, that I stayed up nights fixing his code when he got stuck, that I helped find the first investor. I had been there from the beginning, and my name might not be on the website, but I had rights. I still had access to the documents. I still had old emails, receipts, even the contract we wrote up before we got married, the one he thought I'd forgotten about. But I didn't forget, and now it was time to use it. I got dressed, pulled my hair back, and walked to the nearest cafe. I ordered black coffee and opened my laptop. It was the first time I'd touched it in a week. My fingers felt slow, but they remembered. I opened the shared folder Jason forgot to lock. I found everything. Financial records, board updates, private deals he hadn't told me about. Some of it was just messy, but some of it was worse. He had been hiding money, moving things around without telling his partners. I screenshotted everything, saved it all to a drive. I made calls, quiet ones, people I knew from the early days, people who owed me favors. Most of them were shocked to hear from me, but when I told them what I had, they listened. "I'm not trying to destroy him," I said to one investor on the phone. "I'm just taking back what's mine." By the third day, I had a plan. By the fifth, I had a lawyer. She was smart and tough and didn't flinch when I told her everything. "You want to go after him publicly or privately?" she asked. "Let's start quiet," I said. "But I'm not afraid if it gets loud." Jason had always underestimated me. He thought I'd cry and crawl back. He thought I'd forgive him like I had before, when the lies were smaller, when I still believed he could change, but I wasn't that girl anymore. Now my grief had teeth. Every time I felt like breaking down, I remembered the hotel room, her in his robe, him trying to lie again, and then I'd open my laptop and keep going. Emails, evidence, strategy. I didn't eat dinner with tears in my eyes anymore. I ate with my lawyer at her office, going over the next steps. I wore real clothes again. I walked taller. People started looking at me differently. And for the first time in a long time, I started looking at myself differently too. One night, as I packed up my things, I saw a new message from Jason. "I miss you. Please. Let's fix this." I didn't reply. Instead, I smiled, because I wasn't the broken wife he expected anymore. I was the storm he didn't see coming. When Jason started the company, It was just the two of us in a one-bedroom apartment with no air conditioning and a broken coffee maker. He had the idea, and I believed in it. That was all we had back then. An idea and belief. He would sit at the kitchen table for hours, typing, sketching, pacing, trying to figure things out. I would bring him coffee, take notes while he talked, and stay up with him when he didn't want to sleep. I didn't have a business degree, but I knew how to organize. I knew how to write a proposal. I knew how to find the right people to call. We made it work. I built the first website. He doesn't even know that. He gave up after trying for 3 hours, threw his laptop across the room, and stormed out. I stayed behind and taught myself enough to get it online. The next day, he acted like it had magically fixed itself. I smiled and let him believe it. That's what I did, over and over again. I fixed things in the background. I took care of the details. I made sure the money lined up, that the paperwork was done right, that the first investor call didn't get missed. I did it quietly. He'd say, "I couldn't do this without you," and I'd smile. But the thing is, he couldn't have done it without me. And over time, he forgot that part. As the company grew, so did his ego. The first time a magazine called him a tech genius, he framed it. I was in the photo too, standing next to him, smiling. But the article didn't mention me. He didn't notice. Soon, there were meetings I wasn't invited to, calls I wasn't copied on, ideas I had that he repeated in boardrooms without saying where they came from. I watched as he took all the credit again and again, and I stayed silent. I told myself it didn't matter as long as the company was doing well, as long as we were doing well. But we weren't. He started coming home late. He stopped asking for my help. He stopped saying thank you. He started locking his phone. I didn't want to believe he was cheating back then. But deep down, I knew something had shifted. I just didn't want to look too closely. I was too busy keeping the business from falling apart. When the budget was off, I fixed it. When an employee wanted to quit, I convinced them to stay. When a partner backed out, I found another one. He never noticed, and I let it happen. That's the part that hurts the most. I let him forget who I was. I let him walk into every room thinking he built it all by himself. Until the day I found out for sure. Lexi, that was her name. The same girl who showed up in his texts, in his voicemail, in that hotel room I never should have opened the door to. He risked everything for her, for a lie. And suddenly, I didn't want to protect him anymore. I remembered the early days, the nights I stayed up running numbers, the days I worked 2 jobs to support him while he chased his dream. I remembered how many times he said he'd pay me back, how many times he said, "We're in this together." We weren't. He was in it for himself. So I looked back at every file I still had access to, and there were a lot. Because even though he forgot, I hadn't. I had made sure my name stayed on things, not loud, not obvious, just enough to matter when the time came. I met with a lawyer. I showed her the emails, the contracts, the documents with both our names. "You have a case," she said. "A strong one." I nodded. Good. I didn't want to ruin him. Not yet. I wanted him to see what he'd ignored. I wanted him to understand who really built his empire. So I scheduled a meeting with the board, quietly. I had friends there too. Friends who remembered who helped them get in the door. Friends who knew the truth and were tired of pretending. When Jason walked into that room, he thought it was just another update. He smiled like always, shook hands, laughed too loudly. Then he saw me sitting at the end of the table. His face changed. "Why are you here?" he asked. I looked him straight in the eyes. "I'm here because you forgot." "Forgot what?" "That I was your partner. The real one." He opened his mouth, but I cut him off. I slid the folder across the table. "I've outlined the full breakdown of my contributions, the contracts, the silent shares I hold, and the clauses you ignored." He didn't speak. I stood up. "You wanted to run this alone? Now you can. But it's going to cost you." I walked out before he could respond. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel small. I felt powerful. It started with one meeting. Quiet. Off the books. I met with a man named Oliver at a coffee shop on the east side of town. He wore a dark suit, had sharp eyes, and didn't ask many questions. That's what I liked about him. He just listened. "I want to buy controlling shares in a company," I said. He nodded. "Yours?" "Number my husband's." A pause. "Soon to be ex." He didn't blink. "Tell me more." So I did. Jason's company was built on my work, my ideas, my time, my money. But no one saw that. He made sure of it. To the world, he was the face, the founder, the genius. But I knew the truth, and I knew how to take it all back. Over the next few weeks, I laid out everything I had. Old agreements, hidden shares, emails, contracts with my name still buried in the fine print. Oliver brought in a second man, then a third. A quiet team. People who knew how to move money around without anyone noticing. We created shell companies, small fake businesses that looked real on paper. Each one was clean, separate, silent. No one could trace them back to me. Then we found investors. Not big names, quiet people with money and no interest in being seen. They trusted me. Some owed me. Others just liked the plan. Piece by piece, we started buying. Not all at once. That would have drawn attention. Just a little here, a little there. Shares owned by employees who were ready to cash out. Early? Partners who didn't care anymore. Silent shareholders who never even showed up to meetings. Jason didn't notice. He was too busy posting photos of his new love on social media, too busy playing the CEO. He thought the company was untouchable. He thought he was untouchable. But while he smiled for cameras, I was signing papers behind closed doors. Every move was quiet. Legal enough, smart enough, except one. The forged signature. It was only once. A small form, something he usually signed, without reading. I knew the shape of his name. I'd watched him sign for years. I copied it. Slow, careful, perfect. It gave us access to the final block of shares we needed. With that, we passed the 51% mark. Control. It felt strange when it happened. Like turning a key in a lock I'd waited years to open. I sat in a quiet room across from Oliver and stared at the papers. "It's done," he said. "You own it." I didn't smile. I just nodded. The next step was the meeting. I called the board, set it for a Monday morning. Jason thought it was his usual monthly update. He came in late, like always, wearing that same smug grin. He saw me sitting at the end of the table and laughed. "You're not on the board," he said. "I am now," I replied. He blinked. "What are you talking about?" "I own 51% of this company," I said, sliding the papers across the table. "Effective last Friday." He laughed again, louder. "You can't be serious." But as he read, his smile faded. "Impossible," he said. "Where did you How did you even... He looked up at me like he didn't recognize me. I know this company better than anyone, I said. Better than you. You forgot who helped build it. He looked around the table. Some people looked down. Others just watched, waiting. This is fraud, he snapped. You tricked people. You lied. No, I said calmly. I used what I had. I used what you left behind when you got lazy, when you stopped paying attention. You didn't protect your own company. His face was red now. You're not taking it from me. I leaned forward. Jason, I already did. He stood up fast, the chair scraping the floor. I'll fight this. Go ahead, I said. But you'll lose. Every paper is signed, every step legal. And if you take it to court, we'll show the judge the emails, the deals, the evidence of how you misused funds. You'll be lucky to keep your name out of the press. He opened his mouth, then closed it. Silence. I looked him in the eye. You didn't notice when I was building this, with you. You didn't notice when I held everything together. And you sure didn't notice when I started pulling it away from you. He sat down slowly, defeated. I stood up. This meeting is over. I'll have my assistant send you the terms of your exit. He didn't speak. I walked out of the room, heels echoing on the floor, heart steady. I had no regrets. He thought he could erase me. He thought he could cheat, lie, and leave me behind. But I was the one holding the real power. He just never saw it coming. Jason walked into the boardroom like he owned the place. He smiled wide, greeted everyone with that fake charm of his, and clapped his hands like we were all about to celebrate something. He was wearing his usual expensive suit and a brand new watch I'd never seen before. Probably a gift from her. He didn't notice I was already sitting at the table. Morning, everyone, he said, nodding to the board members. Big day. I've got numbers you're going to love. I stayed silent. So did the others. He finally saw me, sitting at the head of the table. He blinked, confused. What are you doing here? I stood slowly. We're here for a vote. He raised an eyebrow. A vote on what? I thought this was just our monthly update. It was, I said. Until last week. He laughed, but it sounded nervous. Okay, what's going on? One of the board members, David, who used to be one of Jason's closest allies, shifted in his chair and said, We received a motion to remove the acting CEO. Jason stared at him. From who? Me, I said. He turned back to me, his mouth slightly open. You can't do that. You don't have the power. I do now, I said. I own controlling shares. As of last week. His eyes darted to David and then to the others around the table. You all knew about this? No one answered. He took a step forward. This is a joke, right? It's not a joke, Jason, I said. It's a vote. To remove you from your role, effective immediately. He slammed his hands on the table. You're out of your mind. I built this company. I kept my voice calm. You built part of it, but you didn't do it alone. And for the past year, you've been running it into the ground. That's not true. You've been misusing company funds, skipping investor calls, ignoring your own team. You spend more time posting selfies than making decisions. And let's not even start on the affair. His face turned red. That's personal. Not when you used company money to fly her out to the launch event in LA. I opened a folder and slid it across the table. Inside were expense reports, screenshots, emails, proof. Jason didn't look at it. This is a setup, he said, his voice shaking. No, I said. This is what happens when you stop paying attention. When you forget the people who helped you. David cleared his throat. We've reviewed the documents. The motion is valid. We'll proceed with the vote. Jason stared around the room, looking for someone to back him up. No one would meet his eyes. I gave you all everything, he said. This company wouldn't exist without me. And it's time for someone else to lead it, I said. He looked at me. You? I met his stare. Yes, me. He laughed, but it was cold. You think you can do this better? I already have, I said. You just didn't see it. David spoke again. All in favor of removing Jason West as CEO. One hand went up, then another, then three more. Jason looked stunned. It was almost sad. Almost. Jason, David said, you've been officially removed from your role as of today. He didn't move. He just stood there, staring at nothing. Then he looked at me. You really did all this behind my back, he said. You taught me how, I said quietly. Lie, hide, pretend. I picked up the final document and slid it toward him. Your termination papers. Legal's already reviewed them. He didn't take them. I stood, grabbed my bag, and walked to the door. Just before I left, I looked back at him. You walked in expecting applause? I said. But you forgot one thing. What's that? This company doesn't belong to you anymore. I walked out and didn't look back. I thought I had won. After everything Jason did to me, after all the lies and cheating, I finally took something back. I got control of the company. I walked out of that boardroom with my head high and my hands as clean. Or so I thought. It started a week later when I got a call from a number I didn't know. I almost didn't answer, but something made me press accept. Hello? The voice on the other end was soft, calm. Hi, I'm sorry to call you like this. My name is Lexi. My stomach dropped. Lexi. Her. I didn't say anything. I was about to hang up, but then she said, Please wait. I think we need to talk. Why? I asked. So you can apologize. Because I don't care. I'm not calling to say sorry, she said. I'm calling because you need to know the rest of it. The rest of what? I wasn't just his mistress, she said. I was his business partner. I froze. What are you talking about? She took a deep breath. We've been working together for almost a year. He told me you were stepping back, that you didn't care about the company anymore. I helped him set up a side deal. He was planning to move the best clients into a new firm, one we owned together. Quietly. My hand gripped the phone tighter. You're lying. I'm not, she said. Look, I didn't know the whole truth either. At first, I believed him. I thought he loved me. I thought we were building something new. But when I found out he was still with you, still lying to both of us, I was done. I sat down slowly. Why are you telling me this now? Because you think you beat him, she said. But he already started moving things before you took over. And if you don't stop it, he'll still win. He'll walk away with half the client list, and you'll be left holding a company that's already bleeding. I felt sick. I thought I had seen everything, planned for everything, but this was something else. He didn't just cheat on me. He tried to cheat me out of my own revenge. Lexi kept talking. I have proof, emails, contracts, even the list of clients they're targeting, but I'm not giving it to you for free. I narrowed my eyes. Of course not. I want a deal, she said. I help you stop him, and you give me a real seat at the table. A real role. You're smart. You know what you're doing. I want to work with you now. You expect me to trust you? No, she said. But I think you know I'm telling the truth. I didn't answer. She gave me an address. Meet me tomorrow, noon. Bring someone you trust. I'll bring everything. Then she hung up. I stared at the phone for a long time. I didn't sleep that night. I just kept thinking, how deep did this go? How long had Jason been planning this? And how close had I come to losing everything again? The next day, I went to the cafe she picked. It was quiet, with big windows and a view of the park. Lexi was already there, sitting by the corner, a folder on the table in front of her. She looked different, tired but strong. Not the girl I remembered from that hotel room. I sat down across from her. She pushed the folder toward me. Everything's in there. I opened it. She wasn't lying. Emails with Jason. Fake business names. Client lists. Plans for transferring funds. It was worse than I thought. He used both of us, she said quietly. I just didn't see it until it was too late. I closed the folder. You said you want a role. What kind? I don't want to be in the background anymore, she said. I want real work. I'm good at what I do. I helped him build this plan. I can help you fix it. I looked at her. I hated her once. I thought she was the reason everything fell apart. But she wasn't. He was. And now, maybe she could help me finish what I started. All right, I said. But if you lie to me again, I'll bury you. She nodded. Fair. We shook hands. It wasn't a friendship. It wasn't forgiveness. It was business. Jason thought he could play both of us. Thought we were stupid, weak, just women to use and toss aside. But he made one mistake. He forgot we could play the game too. And now we were going to finish it. Together. The day the news went public, I sat alone in the office we used to share. Jason's photo was all over the internet. Articles with bold titles like CEO removed after shocking takeover and secrets behind the fall of a tech star. I didn't even have to call the press. They found the story themselves. A betrayal that deep was easy bait. I should have felt proud. I should have felt like I won. But all I felt was tired. The desk across from me was empty now. His chair pushed back, like he had just stepped out for coffee and would be right back. But he wasn't coming back. Not after what I'd done. Not after what we both did. The company was mine now. Every piece of it. But it didn't feel the way I thought it would. There was no applause, no relief. Just silence. My phone buzzed. A message from Lexi. He knows everything now. You okay? I didn't answer. I just stared at the message. We got what we wanted. We tore him down. Together. She gave me the last piece I needed. I gave her the role she asked for. She was smart, organized, sharper than I ever gave her credit for back when she was just the other woman. Funny how quickly people change sides when they're pushed too far. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling. I remembered the early days. Before the lies. Before the hotel room. Before the cheating. Back when it was just me and him in our small apartment, eating instant noodles and dreaming big. He used to smile at me, like I was the only thing that mattered. I used to believe it. The day I walked out of our honeymoon suite, I thought I was saving myself. And maybe I was. But now, standing at the top of the pile we built together, all I could think was, what did I really win? The next day, he came to the office. Security bussed me first. Jason West is downstairs. I paused. Then I said, let him up. A minute later, he walked in. Same sharp suit, but his face was tired. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. "You're braver than I expected," I said. "I needed to see it with my own eyes," he said, looking around. "What it looks like without me." I didn't smile. "You're just here to make a speech?" "No." He walked toward the desk and sat down across from me. "I came to ask one thing." I waited. "Was any of it real?" he asked. My chest tightened. I wanted to lie. I wanted to say no, to hurt him like he hurt me. But I couldn't. "Yes," I said quietly. "It was real. For a while." He nodded. Eyes locked on mine. "Then why did you burn it all down?" I let out a soft laugh, but there was no joy in it. "Because you already lit the match. I just made sure it caught fire." We sat in silence for a long moment. "I deserved to lose the company," he said. "I know that now." I looked away. "But I didn't think I'd lose you too." "That was your choice, Jason," I said. "You chose her. You chose secrets. You chose ego. I chose wrong," he said. "And I lost everything." I met his eyes again. So did I. He stood up, but didn't walk away. "I'm leaving the city," he said. "There's nothing here for me anymore." I nodded once. "Goodbye, Jason." He turned, paused at the door, then said, "Revenge looks good on you." "But it doesn't feel good, does it?" I didn't answer, because he was right. After he left, I sat there for hours. The office felt colder than usual, bigger somehow. I looked at the papers on my desk, the laptop screen still open to charts and contracts and meetings. None of it felt like victory. Revenge had felt sweet for a moment. When I saw him stumble in that boardroom, when the papers were signed, when he walked out with nothing. But now it just felt like ash in my mouth. Everything burned. The company, our love, even the part of me that used to smile for real. I got justice. I got power. But I lost the life I had built. I lost the version of me that believed in him, the version of me that believed in us. I had to learn to let go, not just of him, but of who I was when I loved him. And that was the hardest part. The final check cleared on a Thursday. It showed up in my account with no warning. Just a number. A big one. More zeros than I ever thought I'd see tied to my name. Jason's last payment. Part of the deal we made when the lawyers finished tearing our life in half. I stared at the screen for a long time. No excitement. No shock. Just silence. That number was the price of everything we had been. A marriage. A company. A dream. And now it was all mine. Except him. But I didn't want him anymore. I closed my laptop and walked to the window. My new place was quiet. Bigger than I needed. High above the city. Full of glass and clean lines. The kind of apartment people looked up at and wondered who lived there. The kind of place Jason always said we'd have someday. Well, someday came. He just wasn't around to see it. The city buzzed below. People rushing, horns blaring, life moving forward like nothing had changed. But everything had. I turned my phone off. I didn't want to read his texts, the ones he sent late at night when he probably missed the power, not the love, or the ones begging to talk just once more. He'd already had 1,000 chances, and he threw every single one away. It wasn't just the cheating, it was the lying. The way he looked me in the eyes and said he loved me, while planning a future with someone else behind my back. The way he used my work, my loyalty, and then left me in the shadows while he stood in the spotlight. The way he treated me like I was lucky just to be near him. But I wasn't lucky. He was. And now he had to live with the fact that he lost everything, because he forgot who helped him build it in the first place. I didn't scream. I didn't break down. I didn't run to the press or post long rants online. That's not who I was. I let my silence speak louder than any headline. I let my win speak for itself. After the takeover, after the board voted him out, I cleaned house, quietly. No drama, just change. New people, stronger people, people who remembered what it meant to work hard and stay loyal. I ran the company like a machine, better than he ever did. The investors came back. The numbers went up. The headlines shifted from scandal to success. And I never put his name on anything again. A few weeks after the dust settled, I went back to our old storage unit. Half of it was filled with this junk. Old startup gear, boxes of awards, fake plants, college hoodies he never wore but refused to throw out. I didn't take anything. I just left a note on one of the boxes. You always said I couldn't do it without you. Turns out, you couldn't do it without me. Then I walked out and told the manager to give him the key. I haven't spoken to him since. People ask sometimes if I miss him. If I ever think about what we had. If it hurts. Of course it does. You don't share your whole life with someone and forget them overnight. I remember the good parts. The quiet mornings. The way he made me laugh when we were broke and tired but still dreaming. But then I remember the rest. The phone calls he took in secret. The woman in the hotel room. The lies layered on top of each other like bricks in a wall I couldn't climb anymore. That's what I hold on to. Not because I'm bitter, but because that pain became the fire I needed. That pain taught me who I really was. People think revenge is loud, explosive, messy, but mine wasn't. Mine was clean. Paperwork, patience, signatures. Mine was numbers on a screen that told me I would never need him again. And that was enough. I lost a husband, but I gained a fortune. And more than that, I gained myself. The version of me that doesn't apologize for being smart or driven or done with excuses. The version of me that doesn't wait around for someone to choose her. I chose myself. And I never looked back. Sometimes power isn't loud. It's not cruel. It's not flashy. Sometimes power is just knowing you're done and meaning it.